Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Tang from Hughes, and today I have the privilege of speaking with Mitch Rapport from Palo Alto Networks. Mitch, can you tell me a little bit about cybersecurity and OT networks?
Sure, yeah. So there's a exciting transformation that's occurring right now where enterprises are looking to sort of transform the way that they create and deploy their OT networks. Historically, these OT networks have been either air gapped or kind of totally separate from their IT environment. And now what we're seeing is a change where these OT networks are getting opened up more. 5G access technology is being made available so that miles and miles of cables can be removed and 5G can be used instead. And the access from the IT domain, which was totally separate in the past, is now available into the OT side. So, very exciting times, lots of new applications and service, optimizations, analytics, all kinds of use cases are opening up as this transformation occurs.
How do I think about the difference between cybersecurity in OT networks as opposed to IT networks?
Yeah. So what we're seeing too is, with that connection, if you will, between the IT side and the OT side, there does come some risk. And if you look at the threats and you look at the actual breaches that have occurred in the past, almost always, not always, but almost always, it starts on the IT side. Someone gets that phishing email or some kind of link, and they click it, and then assets get compromised on the IT side, and then the attacker will pivot into the OT network. So we need to first and foremost make sure that as these OT networks become wireless or have 5G enabled devices or connect into the IT side, that is done in a way that we can prevent any sort of lateral movement from that IT side into the OT side and make sure that that security is still there. The other thing that we, of course, need to do is make sure that we can understand what the OT assets look like and provide meaningful security for them because they're radically different than IT assets often. You compare something like a PLC or a sensor or something, or even an HMI in the OT world to what we have in the IT side, there's different security requirements. So we want to make sure that we can meet all the different security requirements on both domains. And ideally, without having to go and get different point products, we can use the same common product across both domains.
This is a fascinating problem, right? Because when we think about the manufacturing world, you've got a you got both extremes. You have a very old world with very old legacy equipment that as well as the new modern world where you've got robotics and advanced safety issues and the like. And you need in either case, you're basically dealing with devices with very limited CPU processing abilities, very limited abilities to protect themselves. How do you think about a cybersecurity posture that spans kind of both extremes in these worlds?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And one thing we've heard a lot from our customers, especially in the OT space, is that there's another word that starts with an S that's extremely important beyond security, and that's safety.
Mm.
So when we go and we secure these networks, we need to make sure that we provide options to do it in a way that's not disruptive or doesn't introduce additional risk into the OT environment. So, like you said, some of these devices are so old and if you will, fragile that even a port scan or something very basic can disrupt them. Or they have software that's really old and they have vulnerabilities that are known. There may not be an opportunity to go and apply a patch to fix that legacy device. So looking at other options like virtual patching, where we can have the network provide security against that vulnerability, or other attractive ways to provide meaningful security as we layer on additional access technologies without disrupting or impacting the devices that are actually on the network.
Can you give us some advice or some guidance on how to get started here? That the problem is pretty significant. Where would a CIO or a CISO get started in terms of thinking about developing a cybersecurity posture for an OT environment?
Yeah, so at Palo Alto Networks, we often say that you can't secure what you can't see. And so our platform is very good at providing visibility into all the different protocols and applications on the network, as well as all the different assets. So that's a great place to start is you can deploy our products on these networks and we'll give you a detailed list of all the different flows and applications and protocols that are going on between all the different network segments as well as all the different assets that are on the network. And even beyond that, we'll let you know, okay, these assets have these risks, these assets have these vulnerabilities, et cetera, so that these network owners can get a really good idea of what's on their network. And then based on that information, they can kind of decide, okay, well, let's take our next step, and they can begin to kind of move cautiously and carefully, which is really important in these ICS and OT environments to enact the security that makes sense for their environment.
It's remarkable, like how many IT executives get surprised when they think that they may only have a few thousand devices connected to the network, and in actuality, it turns out to be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of devices that are actually connected to their network. Once you get that visibility and understanding of what's connected, then what's next? Where do you go in terms of putting in an appropriate protection for an OT network?
Yeah, once you get that visibility and you understand exactly what your inventory looks like and what your network looks like, that's when we can begin to go further down that zero trust journey and begin to look at segmentation, begin to look at policies. I gave a talk not too long ago, and I talked about using our feature that we have where we can see the exact mobile identifier of these endpoints and coupling that with our application visibility so that you can create postures that are specific to precise devices, not just makes and models, but that specific device. And so you can make very granular, eventually, when the time is right, you can make these very granular security policies to enact that zero trust architecture where you don't trust anything implicitly on the network.
That's one of the remarkable things about OT networks, right? You're not really able to rely on an agent loaded on the device. So now you have to basically get to device level basis for your access policies and your cybersecurity policies as well.
That's right. Yeah. So we do it in a way that's very non-intrusive, right? So we're not using any agents or not doing any probing. We just watch the traffic, right? And we actually use machine learning to identify all the devices on the network so that we can give an accurate representation of what this device is, and then of course what the risks are that go along with that device.
Mitch, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. Everyone, I've been speaking with Mitch Rapard from Palo Alto Networks, and we've been talking to you about how to apply cybersecurity in OT environments.